right, good evening and welcome to the Kent City Council meeting for Tuesday, February 16th, 2021. Would like to remind everyone that as a result of the COVID-19 safety requirements by order of the governor, this is a remote meeting. A live broadcast is available on Kent TV 21, as well as the City of Kent's Facebook page and YouTube channel, which is also Kent TV 21. There is a dial-in number available for anyone that wants to call in and listen to the meeting as well. With that, we have called the meeting to order. Before we call the roll, I do want to do a quick level set at the request of Councilmember Boyce. We are going to starting our meetings with just a quick reminder of the vision, mission, and goals for the City of Kent as a way to remind everyone why we're doing the work that we're doing and what we're hoping to gain from that. So the city's vision is where people choose to live and businesses change the world. And our mission is the City of Kent is committed to building a safe, thriving, sustainable, and inclusive community. So all of the work that we're doing here that the council is doing tonight is grounded in those two things. I think it's a great way to start the meetings. With that, Kim, I will turn it over to you to call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Ralph?
Here.
Council President Troutner?
Here.
Councilmember Boyce?
Here.
Councilmember Fincher?
Here.
Councilmember Kaur?
Here.
Councilmember Larmer?
Here.
Councilmember Michaud? Councilmember Thomas?
Here.
Thank you.
Right, thank you, Kim. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda, and I'm going to turn to Derek Matheson, who I know has an addition.
All right, thank you, Mayor Ralph. Staff recommends that the council add an executive session to discuss litigation.
All right.
That would become item 11A.
Okay, and approximate time, Derek?
30 minutes.
All right, so we will add that to the agenda. Any other changes or additions? Okay, seeing none, a motion would be in order to approve the agenda with the addition of an executive session.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the agenda with those changes.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to item number 4, public communications. And the first item on the agenda this evening is the appointment to the Parks Committee. So we ran a process, solicited applications to our Parks Committee. We had quite a few applications, and the chairs of that committee, along with our Parks Director, conducted interviews. I am proud to present 4 people this evening for council's appointment that would be under the consent agenda. I believe that they are all joining us. So I've got Katie, Robert, Sarah, and Edith with us. We can go in that order. And if Katie if you would like to introduce yourself and tell us in a few words why you applied for the Parks Commission.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, Council President Troutner, and council members for this opportunity. I'm just thrilled to have this opportunity to join as a new commissioner because I'm committed to our city's vitality and believe parks and recreation are one of the foundational pillars and opportunities to promote community health, safety, and connection. There's an abundance of research that continues to show communities with equitable access to parks and recreation spaces are healthier, safer, more cohesive, and more vibrant. And so I come from that background. I come from the community and public health area, getting my bachelor's degree in community health at Western Washington University in Bellingham, and my master's in public health with a focus on health services and systems at the University of Washington. The Pacific Northwest is my home, but it was just over a year ago that I found and moved with my family here to Kent. And the people who know me and know me well in my life know that I talk about Kent all the time. I'm amazed by the city more and more every day. Not only is it a place where I found my young girls can flourish and grow up in a community they can see themselves in, it is a city that I have been completely impressed by in its model for accessible and inclusive governance. I've seen how the City of Kent has proactively worked to bring community into their local government and foster true opportunities for involvement. I see that as a strategic initiative of the Commission, and these are values that I also really deeply share. Throughout my career in public health, I've worked in a variety of settings and environments at the community level and health services access as a Peace Corps volunteer in Cameroon. And then most recently, these past 8 years, I've spent in governmental public health. And these past 8 years, I've really grown to understand and appreciate the responsibility of government to ensure everyone has an opportunity to health and safety, and to also hold ourselves accountable to ensure equitable access to these opportunities for all members of our community. So I'm just really excited about this opportunity. I will take what I've learned from my career to support the priorities of the commission and the city. But in addition to my professional experience, I will also bring my lived experience to this commission as a parent of 2 young girls that strongly depend upon and appreciate the parks, trails, and recreation facilities throughout the city for our overall health and wellness and sense of community. And just really extremely grateful for this opportunity to bring both my professional and whole self experience to this. So thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Katie. How about Robert?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Roberto Arellano. Robert, fine. I guess a little bit about myself here. I'm actually a recent transfer to Kent, but I lived up in Renton, just up a few minutes. I've only been a member of the Washington family since 2012. Before that, I lived in Oregon for a bit, lived about 5 years in Oregon, but I was born and raised in California. So I guess you would say I'm a West Coast kid. I got to hit Alaska, and then I'll have the full. But I guess I've got a very diverse background in employment and in life itself. And one of the things that I know has proven true is the accessibility to parks, accessibility to open spaces. Unfortunately, it is not. I guess it's not as equitable as it should be, and different communities have proven not to have that same advantage. I grew up in, you would say, in some rough neighborhoods down in LA. And growing up there, having a park near your home was actually more of a bad thing to have because of the crime and different things happening that you didn't want to be involved with. You didn't even want to walk through the parks. Now, since I've moved up to the Pacific Northwest, it's a complete 180. Having the accessibility to these parks and these trails has really proven to be almost miraculous. I have 3 children myself, and just the ability for them to just use these parks, they'll never know what they are missing.
Good.
Because they have it. And which is when I first noticed this position coming up, I thought it was a great opportunity for me to continue to give back to this great community that has given my family and myself so much in the 8 years that I've lived here. And I really hope to not only keep it the fantastic community it is, to also assist in any way that I can to improve it, not only for myself, but for my children and maybe sometime in the future my grandchildren, hopefully in the long future. But I'm here to serve. Basically, I'm a former military. I served 4 years in the Navy. So I have service in my heart. If it's not through my community, it's through my employment. Anything I can do, anybody that knows me will let you know that you reach out to me, and I will give you the helping hand. I will take my shirt off to get dirty. Doesn't matter what it takes. If a job needs to be done, I'll be the first one in line to get there to get the job done. So, and I hope to bring that to the council. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you so much. Sarah.
Good evening. Oh, Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you so much for having me this evening. My name is Dr. Sarah Veely. I'm a member or a resident of Kent for the past 16 years, and I have 2 young children who are now growing. I have a 16 and a 14-year-old who have used the Kent Parks and Recreation throughout their lifetime. We've started with a Tiny Tots program, and it's now myself in my, I think, 12th year in adult recreational league. So we have used kind of every piece of this program as our family has grown throughout our time here in Kent. Professionally, I am the Director of Research and Program Evaluation for the Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families, which is our state agency that oversees child welfare, juvenile justice, and early learning. And I also am a professor in the School of Public Health at the University of Washington. I'm really excited to be able to be a part of this group. I'm excited to meet 2 new members in the past few moments already. I feel really, really strongly about kind of my 2 pieces of work, my work in public health, as well as my work in serving the children and youth in our community who are the farthest from resources and in the most need, and combining those 2 needs in the ways the Parks and Recreation Commission can actually help to serve the populations in our community. Although our community interacts with the city on a daily or near daily basis, I think the Parks and our Recreation Department is actually the place people really feel as though they're connected to the park. People go to the parks, people see the parks, and people also have an opportunity to interact with people that they generally may not have an opportunity to interact with in their normal social life. And so using the parks as an opportunity to continue to build our community in terms of health, well-being, both physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, I think is a wonderful place for the city to be and a wonderful place for the city to continue to evolve towards. So I'm really honored to be a member of this group and an honor to work with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, we've got Edith.
Hi, everyone. Good to meet everyone. Hi, Madam Mayor and Commissioner. I'm really excited to be part of this team and to donate my time in volunteering and learning more about Parks and Recs. I applied because I'm an avid park goer. As you can see, I'm in my gym gear. I'm on the trail all the time. I have a puppy. So I'm not only seeking to, see what I can offer in terms of like my expertise. I have a master's in advertising, a minor in graphic design, and part of my wheelhouse is also social media to see how we can kind of leverage Parks and Recs on different platforms. I have a puppy that I'm constantly out on parks and walking and stuff like that, so I get to see firsthand different parks in different neighborhoods. I moved into the city of Kent about a year ago, so I'm really focused to contribute and shape my community. So yeah, I'm just excited to be here and learn from you guys and see how I can, offer my help.
All right, thank you so much. I just want to say I'm really excited about this group of folks that we're bringing forward for confirmation of appointments to the Parks Commission. As you can hear, very varied backgrounds, all the things that I think that Council has been talking about in the last few weeks when they're looking at appointments for commissioners. So we're excited to bring them forward. And my hope is that under the consent calendar, Council will affirm or confirm their appointments to the Parks Commission. And thank you all for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Okay, we are going to move on.
Mayor, I believe Les has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam President. Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say I think Julie just got a hold of a good group of people. Congratulations, Julie.
Yep, definitely. All right, we will move on to item 4B, community events. Council President, do you have any community events?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't believe we have any events coming up. We did cancel our mask event that was to be held on Valentine's Day because of the snow and for everyone's safety, but that will be rescheduled. And I just want to remind everyone, Councilmember Fincher, I know you wanted us to mention this as well. Just because people are getting the vaccine, it's still important to practice social distancing and continue to wear your masks. So just a reminder that everyone is looking out for the members of our community and taking care of themselves and others. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any additional community events? All right, I am not seeing any hands raised. We will move on to our public safety report, and joining us for that tonight is Chief Padilla.
All right. Good morning, Madam Mayor, or good evening, Madam
I
Mayor.
hope it's still not morning, Chief.
Thanks for having me on. It's my pleasure to bring you this month's report. And with that, Kim, if you could do the honors, and we'll click to the first slide there. So I want to start by introducing and awarding a new award that we are going to be bestowing on community members in exceptional circumstances. And that award is called the Chiefs Award of Valor. Last year, we started recognizing as we started getting assistance from our community on some of these more dangerous scenarios that we didn't have an award that properly recognized a situation where someone put themselves in harm's way or took some personal risk to help protect someone else, family or other community members, and including our officers. So we got to work and we came up with this award, Chiefs Award of Valor. So tonight, it is my pleasure, and as you see in the picture there, we were able to meet in person with Mr. Dorian Miller. Dorian is 14 years old, although he looks pretty tall in that picture. And he is our first recipient of this award. Let me read to you what happened. On January 6, 2021, 14-year-old Dorian Miller volunteered to take his cousins, 6-year-old Riley and 7-year-old Annabelle, to Lake Meridian Park. While they were there, a 39-year-old male came up to them and started speaking in a nonsensical manner. The male was saying things like the children did not know God and that he was going to save them, and just kind of random gibberish stuff. Without warning, the male grabbed both of the young children and started to walk off with them. The suspect was yelling at Dorian and telling him the younger kids did not belong to him. Fearing for their safety, Dorian went to work and he physically confronted the male, which ended up in a physical assault. There was some aggression both ways, and Riley, the male began assaulting Dorian, punching him in the head and the face. Dorian fought back. So it's a 14-year-old versus a full-grown man, if you can imagine the picture here. Eventually, he was able to get Riley and Annabelle free, and they ran with him until they could flag down a bystander, a person who was jogging in the area. And that person used their cell phone to call 911. Dorian then kept eye on the suspect in sight while officers responded and led them to where he was, which eventually ended up in his arrest, in the male's arrest. So Dorian is being commended for showing extreme courage in the face of danger. He stood up to an adult male to protect his young, vulnerable cousins from harm. Dorian's brave actions not only protected his family in a scary situation, but also led to the safety of the community by assisting officers in the arrest of the dangerous individual. The Kent Police Department and the community are grateful to Dorian's selfless actions. So, again, we got a chance to meet Dorian this afternoon. He came to the lobby there with his parents. He's a great young man. He didn't think anything about this personally. He just thought he was doing what he needed to help his family. But we thought it was important to recognize this young man for such a great thing. And so please join me in congratulating Dorian Miller. Next up, I want to recognize our Employees of the Year for the department. So every year we hold a process internally where we select an officer of the year, a corrections officer of the year, and a civilian employee of the year. And this year's winners are there on the screen as you see. What's special to me about this award, which by the way I've never won, is that it's done through a nomination process of coworkers. So your peers in the department choose who's the best of them for that year. And so here are the award winners. Officer of the Year goes to Officer Garth Corner. An excerpt from his nomination is as follows. Garth is a highly respected officer across the department. He's the model of consistency. Every day, Garth shows up to work prepared and ready to perform his duties in keeping with the very highest motto of our department's mission and values. He performs his duties with a high degree of professionalism and compassion that is unparalleled in the department. One of the things that's notable, that's an example of the kind of officer Garth is every year we do our Adopt a Family. The officers do this completely on their own. They organize, they fundraise, and they go out and connect with families, of needy families. Some of them are from cases that they've had that year. Others are from, say, human services groups like Kent Youth and Family Services. They identify these families, they build shopping lists for them, they go out, they take them gifts for the holidays, food, for meals, and they just love on him. And Garth was instrumental, it has been for years, but instrumental last year and a big part of the effort that helped 6 families in Kent. So he exemplifies our values of service, professionalism, and integrity. The Corrections Officer of the Year is Alex Alt. Here's what his parts of his nomination said. 2020 has been a year of unprecedented challenge, both personal and as an organization. Throughout the year, Officer Alt has been a reliable and welcome presence within Kent Corrections. Alex maintains a positive attitude, even through adversity. He is highly motivated and is always willing to help. Officer Alt makes the work environment better for everyone around him, staff and inmates included. Alex is the model of service, professionalism, and integrity. So Alex is a relatively new corrections officer, I think just under two years total. So for him to win this award so early on is saying something. But one of the things I love about him is he is well known for how he caretakes the inmates. He cares for them, he sees to their needs, and really does a lot in that regard. And so we're very proud of him, and congratulations to him. And last but certainly not least, Civilian Employee of the Year for 2020 is Finance Analyst Debbie Douglas. Debbie truly shines. This is what her nomination said. Debbie truly shines in her current role as a finance analyst, whether she's pulling together information or sorting through equipment orders. Her attention to detail, understanding of the department and its moving parts, and dedication to her role has helped save the department money. And I can contest to that. There's been several incidents where Debbie has caught something or some part of a contract that has literally saved Kent taxpayers thousands of dollars. Debbie has provided insights into information we need to collect in Workday, which is our human resources system, and Telestaff, which is our scheduling system, and delivers exceptional customer service to our officers, detectives, and command staff members. Time and again, Debbie has proven to be a valuable member of the team, and she deserves to be formally recognized. Debbie is one of those people that is a joy to work with. Without fail, anytime I go there and I need something, she is on the spot, gets it done, and does it in such a pleasant way. So very deserving of this award as well. So please join me in congratulating all of our great KPD employees of the year. Next slide, please. And then I would like to present a life-saving medal to 2 of our officers, as you see there on the screen. This, like so many of our life-saving medals, started with officers being dispatched to a medical emergency of some kind. What a lot of people may not realize is that in Kent, almost every medical emergency that comes through 911 is dispatched simultaneously to our police department and our fire department. And the reason for that is a lot of times our officers are already deployed out in the field. So they may be in closer proximity. They don't have to get into a truck and all that stuff. So we often, and actually more often than not, will get to the scene of a medical emergency before fire does. So we get there, we get to work on them. We do our basic CPR, defibrillators, things of that nature. And then fire responds and does more advanced life-saving measures if that's called for. It is a great system. It requires great teamwork. It's one of the reasons that our city and our region actually has a higher success across the nation in CPR saves. So with that, here's what happened. On November 6, 2020 at 6:16 a.m., Officer Brian Cortines and Sergeant Eric Tung were dispatched to an 11-year-old girl who was unconscious and not breathing. Upon arrival, Officer Cortines couldn't find a pulse, so he immediately started CPR. Sergeant Tung quickly affixed the AED, automated electronic defibrillator, pads to her torso, and they administered a shock and continued CPR for a while. Both of them continued, switched in and out as they got tired for several minutes until firefighters arrived and then assisted with more advanced life-saving measures. They were able to save her, and she was transported to hospital where she was recovered and was eventually discharged. So King County Emergency Medical Services often lets us know about these incidents. And here's what the director, Thomas Ray, you might know him because he's on point right now for all the COVID stuff in King County, advised that he appreciated Officer Cortines and Sergeant Tung's efforts, stating that the involvement of law enforcement in resuscitation efforts increases the chance of survival for the patient. Officer Cortines and Sergeant Tung are being commended for their quick response, which ultimately resulted in saving the life of this victim and we'd like to congratulate them for doing so. We gave them their award some days ago. So next, please. Next, I wanted to just share with the public, I know the council has seen this already, as you have, Mayor Ralph, that we have completed the first round of updates and new policies related to use of force. So there are 5 updated policies, updated language and procedures, and then we have 2 unique policies that we stood up, de-escalation and duty to intervene. What's interesting is we have our policies in place. And many of you may be aware that there are bills before the state legislature that we're going to further legislate the requirement of these policies for law enforcement, and Kent is already there. So of note of the policies in our de-escalation, this explicitly directs our officers to use these techniques when interacting with the community, obviously whenever feasible. And this is something that our officers have routinely practiced before, but now we have a policy that reinforces that. And in the duty to intervene, that policy requires our officers to immediately intervene when feasible and report anytime they observe excessive force or a violation of the law. Again, this was something that was going on in our culture and something we did, but now it's something that we emphasize through policy, and it makes it a violation not to report these. That's something that's different than before. So this strengthens our intent on this, and we're glad to let the public know that we have these. If you look on the screen there, you'll see our email or our website address. Something I also want to remind the public is that all of our policies are available through a public portal that we established last year. If you go to our website or enter that URL there into your browser, it'll bring up our policies, and you can read up on literally dozens and dozens of policies that we have in place. Looking forward, we are in the process of looking at all of our policies and updating those as we go. I will keep everybody posted on the updates as we get close to those. So thank you. Next slide. And last, I just wanted to put in a plug for our Community Academy that's coming up on April 7th. For those that have not heard about our Community Academy, it is a multi-week course, usually 10 weeks, but I think because of COVID, we've shortened it down to 8. Where we invite the community in. This will be our second Cyber Academy, so it'll be online. And once a week on Wednesday nights, you'll get to see and hear about all the different parts of our operations, some of the behind the scenes reasons for what we do and how we do it, information on our jails and court systems and detective work. We get incredibly high reviews, good reviews on this, and it's a great experience. We work really hard to share the why and how of what we do. And if you've ever wondered why something happens and why the police do this or that, why, maybe you saw these lights and sirens in your neighborhood, or why so many cops show up to a scene, this is a great way to get informed, to get some context and perspective, and really learn about your police department. So registration's opening soon. It's not open currently. Keep tabs on our website. Registration will open, and we're hoping to fill a class. Hopefully we'll have 30 to 35 people in there. We have multiple instructors made up from our department, and you'll get to see me there at one point as I do the welcome and talk about our department as well. So great stuff on that, great opportunity, and look forward to all those that will be signing up. So with that, Madam Mayor, that completes my report, and I'd welcome any questions if there are any.
All right, thank you, Chief. Any questions from council? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. Thank you very much, Chief, for that report.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on in the agenda to item number 5, which is reports from council and staff. This is an opportunity to hear about the work that all of us are doing outside of the normal council meetings or the committee of the whole meetings. I am very, very proud of the fact that all of our council members serve on committees outside of their regular council assignments, and that allows us to be represented at a lot of tables around the region, which is extremely important to make sure that that our voice is being heard and we are part of that decision-making process for our community. I will start with a couple of updates. I serve as the vice chair for the Transportation Policy Board at the Puget Sound Regional Council. We had a meeting last week, went over some grant making processes and things. One of the presentations that we had was on the state of the transportation system in the 4-county region. Puget Sound Regional Council has put together what they're calling a visualization tool, and that's available on their website. And it's really talking about things like how many streets, arterials in the region have sidewalks, how many people live within a reasonable distance to transit. One of the tidbits I learned is that 22 cities out of that entire region are served by high capacity transit. That's not a lot when you think that there's 39 cities just in King County. So really great tool for helping us understand how the region needs to grow its transportation infrastructure. Couple of updates I want to provide. This morning, I had the opportunity to testify in front of the House Finance Committee on streamlined sales tax. Want to make sure to thank Representative Deborah Entenman and Representative Pat Sullivan for sponsoring the bill that would do exactly the work that we got done last year before the governor vetoed it, which would be to reinstate that streamlined sales tax mitigation. So I'm thankful for our local delegation for sponsoring that. Was able to provide testimony with the mayors of Issaquah, Auburn, Tukwila, and Sumner. So we're hopeful as that bill makes its way through the process. Did also want to provide an update on COVID. So we have received a report out from our RFA, the Regional Fire Authority, and they have been able, through their mobile strike teams, to administer vaccines to all the adult family homes in the city of Kent that were wanting to have them come and visit, or they've been able to contact. That's a really big feat. Outside of Seattle, Kent was the first city to stand up those mobile strike teams and really have led the way. And so we're starting to see those pop up in other cities around the county, but very proud of the work that our Puget Sound RFA has done on that. They are now making their way through our senior living facilities. So think our Shag Apartments, Tri-Court, Harrison House, that kind of thing. So really working to get that vaccine into those communities that don't necessarily have access to go to, say, like Showware. Really proud that we were able to stand up Showware. We got a report on Friday that they were able to administer 970 vaccines at Showware Center on Friday. So looking to continue to ramp that up with the eventual goal of several thousand a day once supply becomes consistent. So very proud of that partnership with King County. Finally, I want to end my report with a giant thank you to our public works crews. We had a snow event, and I will tell you, in all of my life living here in Kent, I have never seen an event where our crews did a better job. They were out there early on. James Street was open the majority of the time. We closed it for a few hours overnight and then reopened it again on Saturday. So just really proud. I will tell you the comments that we received from our residents were all very thankful that we were able to get those roads back open. And I also want to say thank you to our comms team. That the job of keeping our residents updated is also a 24-hour job during those events. So thank you to the team, everybody that was involved. Nice job. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Council President Troutner. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to turn it over to CAO Derek Matheson. Thank you, Derek.
All right. You see my face flash up there. All right. Thank you, Mayor. As council members are aware, the council held the first day of its 2021 retreat week before last and gave some directions. Included among those directions were to modify the descriptive language for 2 of the city's goals, to return to the council committee system in the coming months, to strengthen our board and commission ordinances and bylaws, and to require additional notice to tenants when landlords want to terminate month-to-month tenancy. Council members and staff have already started working on this. I met with our equity manager and government performance coordinator on the vision, mission, and goals. We came up with some possible language, which our equity manager will run past our cultural communities board, and then we'll bring that back to the city council. The council president appointed a committee on committees to look at what a return to the committee system might look like. And that group will report to the full council next Tuesday during the committee of the whole. And then the city attorney and I are meeting next week to start talking about boards and commissions. And of course, we'll keep council updated along the way and bring documents back to you for approval. The rest of my written report is in the packet. And as we discussed earlier, we do have an executive session this evening to discuss litigation. Expected time is 30 minutes, and there will be no action when we reconvene in open session. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Derek. Council President.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had 3 items at workshop earlier this evening, and just a reminder that you can go back and watch the workshops, which this one had quite a bit of really good information. The first one was on King County growth targets. Growth targets are a policy statement, which is the number of housing units and jobs each jurisdiction will plan for in a comprehensive plan. So it's trying to predict the growth over a period of time for a region, the county, a city, etc. And those help cities in decision-making process to accommodate growth and change. So King County is working on preparing those draft targets, and those will be brought back to council at the beginning of April. We also had a presentation from Kevin Grossman, who is at Green River College, and it was on the small business technical assistance. They have small business outreach, which includes one-on-one advising, succession planning, financial advice, working with businesses and organizations around the community to help them be better successful. They partner with different types of expertise, which includes bankers, people who are experts in digital marketing and technical assistance. So if you are interested in learning more about this, you can contact Kevin at kgrossman@greenriver.edu. And as you can imagine, during this time of COVID, this assistance has been really helpful to businesses in our community. And then lastly, we heard about local food facility concept. And the Local Food Initiative is a county roadmap that, one, allows affordable food access for low-income populations and also to grow local food economy. So we do know there's a demand for growing for local food products that would also benefit from a food system infrastructure. So if you could imagine a multi-use, shared use facility where farmers and food entrepreneurs would have access to a commercial kitchen and space, shared cold storage, warehouse space, value-added processing, and co-packaging. This would be a really helpful tool for, again, farmers and food entrepreneurs. So this is just a concept right now. More work will be brought forward as this program develops. So more on that. And I also sit on the Regional Transit Committee. We have a meeting tomorrow. And Regional Law, Safety, and Justice, we will meet next Thursday. Now I will turn to my colleagues and see what they have been up to. And I will start with Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I serve on Regional King County Domestic Violence Initiative Regional Task Force. We had our meeting last Tuesday. We basically had presentations on all the bills that are being discussed right now in the House and Senate. We had more presentations on them, and just one of the bills was discussed by. We got a great presentation. Was by Judge Ann Levinson on modernizing, harmonizing, and improving the efficacies and accessibility of civil protection orders. I also attended City Action Days with Association of Washington Cities last Wednesday and Thursday. We had great presentations and great, sessions on transportation and housing and police reform bills that are making their way through right now through the House. And that is all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Larmer.
Thank you, Council President. So I sit on the King County Aging and Disabilities Advisory Council, and we met last Friday. We had a really great presentation by Dr. John Bassel. He is an internal medicine specialist at Swedish. And we talked in great length. It was really just a Q&A session with him on the vaccine distribution. But one of the topics he actually led with, which I wanted to share, it was kind of a great story with kind of at the intersection with Black History Month too, is that a full century before the idea of the modern smallpox vaccine came, the true father of, like, I guess, Western vaccination was actually a slave from West Africa in Boston named Onesimus, and he is credited with saving hundreds of lives in Boston by bringing the practice of vaccination from West Africa to the Western states. So that was just kind of a cool way to start off the meeting we had. And then again, just talked in great length. He answered a lot of questions. A few facts I wrote down that I thought I would share with the community. So a standard vaccination is considered successful when it's 70% effective. Both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccinations right now are proving 95% effective in preventing serious illness, and they're almost 100% effective at preventing death. So very, very successful vaccines on that standard. They did, there were concerns expressed about side effects, and most recent stats he could share is that out of 42 million vaccine doses given in the United States, severe side effects have been less than 150. So something to consider. That is extremely, extremely rare out of 42 million doses. And then, I think that those were just the big takeaways. There were, like I said, it was a great discussion. It was great to just have access to a doctor of his caliber to just work with us and answer questions and talk to the communities. Somebody else, they did share that there is a statewide effort from the state refugee, I want to get this right, Refugee Advisory Council, statewide Refugee Advisory Council is holding a meeting this coming Friday. It's a public forum to work on putting together some materials to help get the vaccine messaging out to the immigrant and refugee communities, because that is a gap that they recognize in understanding and comfort level with the vaccine. So there's some statewide efforts starting around that. And that is all I have to report. I also sit on the King County Affordable Housing, and we are not meeting till the end of the month. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you, Madam President. I sit on the Sound City Association Public Issue Committee, known as PIC. We met on last Wednesday, February 10th. A real good meeting. When we had an open on our emergency management advisory committee, and the mayor from Newcastle, Linda Newen, was elected to that position. Also, a lot of conversation around what's going on at the state legislature, as Councilmember Court talked about. We had Candace Brock there, and a lot of questions around some of the police reform. But she also mentioned that, as they move forward, they make sure they're going to get the chief involved. So I'm hoping Chief Padilla is involved in some of the things that's going on. And also, we also got an update from Brianna, too, on some of the things that's going on, too. So we probably want to kind of keep a close eye on those things there. On the countywide planning policy, I think Councilmember Core is a part of that. I know they got a draft together, and it's going to be moving that forward here pretty quickly here. And I think most of you guys know that for the King County Regional Homeless Authority, they did make an offer. I'm not sure she accepted the offer yet, so they got a new CEO that's going to be coming aboard. And they also talked a little bit about the ballot measure coming on, and one is around the Best Start for Kids. A lot of conversation about that. I mean, And there's a lot of money around that as well, too, right? So, talked about the ROI, return on investment. They say when you're dealing with young kids, you may not know your ROI for years and years and years down the road, right? So there was a lot of conversation around just, there's a lot of money, and you want to make sure, taxpayer money and the money is being spent wisely. So, and I think that was about all we talked about, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyce. Councilmember Thomas.
Madam President, before I begin my report, I'd really like to thank Marley for that information she was able to give us tonight. I thank you for that report, Marley. That was really good. I really enjoyed that. I serve on the Regional Fire Authority here in Kent, and along with our council president and our councilman Boyce. And we have a very important meeting tomorrow. That's at 5:30, Station 78 out in Covington. Very important that you be there. I'm going to be out of town, but I'm taking my computer with me so that I will be able to attend on Zoom. That's one advantage that Zoom has. By the way, just as a postscript, I was one of the fortunate ones that the fire department called at the last minute and said, hey, we have one last vaccination available. Do you want it? I said, yeah, I'll be right there. And so I got mine last week, and I'm very pleased about that. So we're off and running. And I was a prime candidate, as most of you know, with all my owies and my age. So I'm happy that's over. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Good news. Thank you, Councilmember Thomas. Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Council President. I serve on King Conservation District. Our last meeting, fire-wise, and the management of the forest lands, both private and public forest lands, was a lot of the conversation. We also found out that we have hired a search firm to find our executive director. So we are also looking for an interim executive director to serve in the meantime. We also talked about our food system program. We actually do grants, as most of you know, and we were able to finalize the grants that were being offered for the food program this year. We are also going to be, again, looking at equity, making sure that that is integrated through everything that we do, as well as food sovereignty. So making sure that that's integrated through all parts of the program. I also serve on the Arts Commission, serve as the Arts Commission liaison. So we were able to pick the two artists who are going to work on that mural project that we partnered with KDP on. And we have finalized a number of the performers who were signed up for last year for both the summer concert and the Spotlight series. We were able to get a lot of those again for this coming year, since they were not able to perform last year due to COVID-19. There is probably going to be a change in venue from the concerts that are usually held at Kent Station. Those are going to likely be held at Morrow Meadows. There's a lot more room at Morrow Meadows for distancing, and that was also in consideration prior to the COVID pandemic. We were able to go through and looking at the city art plan and the budget for that. So that is looking good. And also we have the next round of the Kent Creates art presentations, or art, say, gallery, online gallery. So we have that up and running, and that one goes through the 30th of March. And so the theme for that one is, as I'm looking through my notes, it's looking forward. So as you know, we just talked about the looking back at COVID-19 and the year past, and we then looked at what the bright spots were in that. Now we're looking forward. So again, you have through the end of March, March 31st. That is and Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Advisory Council, MID, we meet Thursday of next week. So I'll report on that next time.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, that ends our reports.
All right, thank you very much. Right, we will move on in the agenda now to item number 6, public hearing. We do not have one this evening. Item number 7 is public comment. The public comment period is the opportunity to speak to the council and mayor on issues that relate to the business of the city of Kent. Comments that do not relate to the business of the city of Kent are not permitted. Additionally, the state of Washington prohibits people from using public comment period to support or oppose a ballot measure or a candidate for office. Our clerk, Kim Komodo, will call our speakers, and when you are called on, please state your name and city of residence for the record, and we do allow 3 minutes. Kim, would you call our first speaker?
Julie Seitz.
Hello. Are you able to
Yes,
see
we can
me?
hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, are you able to see my video?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Ralph, Council President Troutner, and council members. I'd like to thank Council members Fincher and Thomas for coming out to our cemetery last week. And I want to thank the residents immediately adjacent to a cell tower project here at our cemetery for coming to speak tonight. My name is Julie Seitz, and I'm from Federal Way. I am a patron of Seattle Pet Cemetery, established in 1948. I am a former licensed private investigator in the state of Washington, and I am the leader of our campaign to oppose King County permit file number ELEC 19-0063. 2 jurisdictions are impacted by this project: City of Kent and unincorporated King County. We are here tonight to ask the City of Kent to advocate for its residents and lean on the Department of Licensing, where we have a 35-page letter of complaint and 24 exhibits asking the Department of Licensing to find that we, in fact, do have a human cemetery with the protections thereof. And in the state of Washington, it is not lawful to use a cemetery for any other purpose than for a cemetery, and it is unlawful to use it for a cell tower project. We love our cemetery. Our cemetery has been on the Greater Kent Historical Society annual tours, and currently it's very hurtful, and it makes us very angry to have a 100-foot cell tower constructed inside burial block 13 with graves. There is razor wire, hazard and warning signs, and we don't feel this is compatible in our sacred space. We have humans, pets, and canine officers buried here for over 72 years. We allege the permit issued by King County is unlawful based on state cemetery law. I sent an email earlier this evening to the City of Kent Mayor, the Council, Chief Administrative Officer Derek Matheson, and Economic and Community Development Director Kurt Hansen. I'd be happy to answer any questions by email or phone. And I just appreciate the City of Kent stepping in to advocate. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Dennis Jaroszewski. Let me get him up here.
Do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Dennis.
Okay. Do I do anything on the video part or?
Oh, you're good.
You're all
Okay.
good to go.
All right. My name is Dennis Jaroszewski. My wife and I have lived in the city of Kent in our home for the last 40 years. Our home is directly across the street from the back end of the Seattle Pet Cemetery that's located off of Military Road. And for the 40 years that I've lived here, my wife has lived here, it's been a very peaceful surroundings to have a neighbor across the street, the Seattle Pet Cemetery, being like a park setting. And they maintain it, they planted the trees. It's just been a very quiet, peaceful setting, and it's a cemetery. It needs to be that way for the people that are using it and just the surrounding neighbors that see it as an important part of our neighborhood. Well, that all changed about a year ago at this time when a cell phone developer had to relocate their 5G tower, I think from around the Pacific Highway area due to the light rail. And so they were looking at property down in our neighborhood here, I guess, through whatever protocols they look at for distances between their cell towers. And they saw the Seattle Pet Cemetery, and then they saw another piece of property right next door to it that was a property that over the 40 years I've lived here has been developed into just a big parking lot where the owner has leased the property to various equipment dealers and owners to park their equipment. And so there's no real buildings that are on it as such. And so we have a letter from the owner of that property that states that the cell phone developer never asked them whether they would be interested in having a cell phone tower installed on their property. And so what happened is this developer got together with the owner of the Seattle Pet Cemetery, and they decided to have this cemetery or this cell tower placed in the back of the cemetery. They went through all the approvals. They went through the permitting department. So we're just wondering how, as a designated cemetery, that a non-cemetery commercial property like a cell tower could get approved to go into a cemetery. This cell tower is less than 100 feet from my front door. I could take a football and hit the doggone tower. It's that close. So along with, being in a location like the cemetery that it shouldn't be in to begin with, common sense says it shouldn't be there, that there's also the potential for health reasons that nationwide, I think a lot of 5G towers are being developed faster than the technology is being researched to determine if it's safe for the surrounding neighborhood. So I'm adding my voice to Julie's to ask for the city council to help with contacting the Department of Licensing and the cemetery board, see if they can do anything to investigate how this tower was placed on cemetery property. And eventually we'd like to see that tower removed from the area. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kathleen Sura.
Oh, hi there. I have a few comments and follow up to Dennis. I don't know who he is. I'm probably about 2 blocks away from the cell tower, also having been here about 40 years. Seen a lot of changes, and quite honestly, this little area has been left out of a lot of stuff for a long time, and then to have this plunked on us is just a little bit more than we can take here. Going back and forth to work for all the years I've worked, I've probably passed that cemetery at least twice a day, probably more on various trips. And occasionally, you would see the car out in front, and you would see distressed people getting their pets out of the car, taking them into the building, and surrendering them to, however it is that they get put in a box in a crypt and whatever, and get buried. So it's very sad, and I'm sure that has not been cheap. People have put out a lot of money to have their pets buried there, and certainly thinking that it's going to be for a long time. I mean, they're not coming back. And I understand there's a woman who has put her pets in there and has a place for herself as well, figuring down the road that she wanted to be with those pets that she loved for all that time. So now comes along Crown Castle. They don't even know us. They don't even care about us because they're, 1,500 miles away, and they want to plunk this big tower there. Well, in Kent, there are very few little nookies that you can find that are like little gems, if you drive around. This is one of them. We don't have a lot of historical stuff, particularly in Kent, but we have this, and I think it's worth maintaining, and I think that tower needs to get off of there. In addition to that, I worry about the health ramifications because there's a lot of environmental uncertainties with this tower, and we haven't done enough studies, and that's radio frequency electromagnetic radiation that's coming at us. This 5G technology is 100 times more powerful than the 4G is. So I just wonder what that's doing to all of us. We haven't had enough studies. There's an astonishing lack of scientific studies of how new frequencies that will be used for 5G will affect human health. In the October 17th, 2019 Scientific American, they state that numerous recent scientific publications have been shown that EMF affects living organisms at levels well below most international and national guidelines. Effects include increased cancer risk, cellular stress, increase in harmful free radicals, genetic damages, structural and functional changes of the reproductive system,
Ms.
learning
Sarah?
and medical. Yes, okay. I
apologize
won't
for
read it all. You get the idea. So there's the two issues that I just wanted to bring up. The cemetery needs to stay there because it has the right to. The tower needs to go, and we can't put up with this health risk that's out here for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kim, our next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Phyllis Lundquist.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully, can you hear me? I'm
Yes,
sorry, I'm traveling for work. Okay.
Yeah, you're coming
So,
in.
all right, great, thanks. So I actually live just 3 houses down from Dennis, so fairly close to this new cell tower. And I will say that I am happy to be here to speak with everyone. I am also disappointed that we're here discussing this. When the first community meeting was held in January of 2019, myself, my husband, my daughter, and many of my neighbors, we attended that meeting and we raised these two specific concerns. We raised concerns about health issues, and I have to say they were dismissed, and I was taken aback. And one of the things they did not make very clear in that meeting is that this would be the 5G technology versus the 4G technology that had more studies. They said that our health concerns was not valid. And my response was, are you going to be here in 20 years when it becomes valid? And I got no answer. So I'm asking for the council and the mayor, Madam Mayor, for you guys to support us, as we did not get the help we needed when we raised those concerns in January of 2019. We also asked about the cemetery, and the response that we received is that pet cemeteries have no standing. It's similar to being a landfill, which I was taken aback by that comment. And so after that meeting, we have been very much opposed to it. We heard very little communication. I'm not sure what happened to all the notices. The notice from the street is very hard to see, so I'm not sure if they updated it, but I do know by the time they started construction, there was a new case number, and we did not have an opportunity to voice our concerns and that we were not supporting this since January of 2019, and then a second meeting in March of 2019. And based on what we have since found out with the cemetery, this cell phone tower does not belong there, and we're asking for help and you to support that they cease operations and they remove the cell tower from our neighborhood.
Our next speaker is Lee Lundquist.
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you. For my fellow council members, you look at a map of Kent and you may notice 2 little dots up where they're talking about. And I did not know until this week that this area where the pet cemetery is, and Dennis and some of the neighbors, they are actually in unincorporated King County. So although they have come to a Kent City Council, and I appreciate that, I really do. However, the authority is to do anything would be by King County, and they were the ones that issued the initial permits. I'm not sure where Phyllis and the neighbors went to the first meeting, that would be interesting to know. I don't know if she
It
can
was
answer
at the
that.
courthouse in Kent.
The courthouse?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
That's the King County Courthouse. Okay, thank you for now.
So our next speaker is Lee Lundquist.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for hearing us. I understand we do live in the area we are in is considered King County. We are also considered Kent City residences, and we vote for Kent City. I would like to, we're asking for your help with this issue. And my wife spoke to the same points I'm speaking to, as to at the very first meeting we had, we questioned that being a cemetery. And I actually asked the question, is that not considered hallowed ground? And we were told, no, it's not. I don't understand how that can be, but, and the only other thing I can bring to this is the very last public notice we received on this said there would be no further public meetings or discussions on it because of, and I don't have the notice in front of me, so I can't say what statute it listed, but it listed a state statute and said they could put the cell tower there because of some state statute. And that's all I really have to add to this, and I thank you.
Our next speaker is Linnell Washington.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Okay, my name is Linnell Washington, and I live across the street from the location of the pet cemetery. And I've only been retired. I've only lived here for 8 years. But I want to speak from a different perspective. Our pet cemetery is a place where we bury our pets or someone that we love so that they may rest in peace and we're able to visit them. To most family, our pet become our children. They become a part of our family. And so our love is so great for them, and it's our responsibility to take care of them. This is why I'm speaking to you tonight. If we'll remove pet cemetery and replace it to human cemetery, we would not be discussing this topic because no one would be there to place a cell tower in the middle or even near the cemetery because they will be violating our human rights. Well, this should also apply to the pet cemetery because they have rights and should be treated with respect. Washington State Department of Licensing and the funeral board director said that the cell tower is violating the laws. And under RCW 68040-040 says that the cemetery must be used solely for the purpose of burial. So a cell tower project is not a use to the cemetery. So once again, it has no reason to be there. And it has not been determined where it's safe to the human environment by the federal government. So once again, we have this issue. And I join with all of my neighbors, with Julie, and with you all, because I know that we're all trying to reach the same point. What is the best outcome for our pets? What is the best outcome for everyone in this? So I join in and said, Mayor, good afternoon or good evening to each and every one of you that allowed me to speak. I am so thankful that you've given me this opportunity. Please join with us to help and speak for the rights of our pets. Thank you so very much.
Our next speaker is Stacy Lundquist.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. I, too, would like to ask for your help. I live across 38th Street and 1 block north of the cell phone tower, one plot. In their haste to put up this tower, Castle Crown has sidestepped many laws and regulations from the very beginning. I did not receive any notifications for any of the community meetings. My parents, even though they live at a different address that is farther away from the tower than I am, did receive notifications, and I found out about these meetings through them. We were told to bring alternate sites within 5 miles and they would be researched. I brought many sites, some of which Castle Crown themselves owned, that were within 2-mile radius. And when I asked about them at the second meeting, that again I did not receive notification for, they had not been researched. When my father mentioned hallowed grounds and that they were most likely human remains with the animal remains because people have been choosing to be buried near their pets, we were told that those rules did not apply. When we questioned the placement of the tower because there were unsanctioned by neither the state nor the city modifications to the property, we were told those rules did not apply. When we questioned the health ramifications, knowing that in King County, they have removed cell phone towers from schools and retirement homes due to adverse health effects, we were told those rules did not apply. Even though I gave them my personal information, I never received any further information from anybody. I was walking through my neighborhood when I saw that they had started constructing this tower. No matter what I communicated with Castle Crown, and no matter what the proper procedure was for building the cell phone tower, I was given the distinct impression that they would consider their profits to be more important than keeping the cemetery sacred, our health issues or possible health issues, or the rules and regulations that they needed to follow through the city of Kent and the state of Washington. So I too am asking that the construction stops, activation is halted, and that the tower is removed from our neighborhood. Thank you.
Our next and final speaker is Ann Bose.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Ann Bossy, and I'm a recent resident to the Kent area. I moved into the Kent area. I bought a house. Gosh, I can see the cell phone tower from my front yard. And I'm joining Julie, Dennis, Kathleen, Phyllis, Lee, Linnell, and Stacy in support of everything that they've already said. So we won't cover any more from that. But the City of Kent residents by jurisdiction were directly contacted by King County, and the City of Kent resident, Deborah A. Stewart, wrote in a letter to public comments tonight, and she's also a cemetery patron. So the main thing that I would love for this council to hear in support of everything that everybody else has already said is that we've been able to gather over 100 resident signatures who are wanting the cell phone tower to be stopped in terms of construction and also be removed and to be placed in a location that doesn't put residents at risk. There's a number of different things that I've learned over the last few weeks that perhaps certain, let's see here, I'm sorry, I'm going to my notes here, is that one of the actions that has not been taken yet is an environmental impact statement was not done related to the construction of the cell phone tower in the Seattle Pet Cemetery. And so the biggest thing for me is that we don't know what the impact of 5G technology is on humans, especially those who are vulnerable, like children, the elderly, and those of childbearing age. So by allowing a business decision that does not uphold the rules and regulations of our state, county, and city, possibly to the detriment of its residents, in my opinion, the city is making a statement of prioritizing business over people if the board does not stop the project from going live. Thank you.
Mayor, I have no other speakers.
May I speak, please?
Is this Deborah?
Yes, it is.
All right, this is Deborah Stewart. Okay, go ahead, Deborah.
Thank you so much. Honorable council members, elected and non-elected officials, and members of the audience. My name is Deborah Stewart, and I'm writing to you in my capacity as a former land use planning and development analyst for the city of Seattle. I am also a resident of the city of Kent for about 28 years, the last 3 of which I was annexed. And were it not for a mix-up, I would have 2 cats buried at the Seattle Pet Cemetery. I have one burial plot there with a custom headstone, and I went to great lengths to have a funeral with a program and, everything you might find at a regular human service. I'm kind of trying to cut my letter down to size here. And I distinctly remember asking the owner or cemetery employee whether they would keep this cemetery there in perpetuity. And I could eyeball the adjacent neighborhood and see that there were commercial and industrial uses and feared the worst. And now I realize that my worst nightmare has come to fruition. Mr. Moore, or whoever it was, I will be checking this out, assured me that it would remain in perpetuity as a cemetery. While I worked for the city of Seattle, I shepherded and reviewed hundreds of land development applications of all types and stripes. At one point, I had a caseload of 95 projects all at once. Moreover, as a professional planner, I reviewed land use applications for miscellaneous cell facilities and smaller towers, as I recall. However, it does not require a master's degree in city and regional planning to see what an abomination of land use horror this cell tower is. I can think of no other more incongruent uses for a piece of land than a cemetery with a cell tower on it. The poor souls are not only rolling over in their graves, they were, in effect, evicted from their final resting places as the tower and its fencing, landscaping, whatever drainage, concrete footings, and electrical boxes have intruded, disturbed, and possibly ousted parts of beloved family members. We do not know this for certain, as the county paid lip service to the cemetery land use, probably didn't even bother to even conduct a drive-by site visit, which is a pejorative planner term for it. What normally occurs is a site visit when you actually go and visit and step onto the property. I believe the county didn't even do a drive-by site visit. And now users of the cemetery, neighbors, and others affected by this monstrosity are expected to live with it. We will not. The county failed to conduct a proper SEPA review, soliciting comments from public agencies dealing with cemeteries, archaeological experts, public health historians, and yes, to use their imagination, even to be sensitive to users of the cemetery and send them notice.
Ms.
I do
Stewart,
not
you to wrap up your comments, please.
Okay. Indeed, the property owners apparently did not disclose the presence of human remains sharing a formerly bucolic setting with beloved pets. They, in effect, lied by omission to the county to push this application through. I, as all of the other former speakers, request that the City of Kent Council put pressure on the King County Planning and remand this to the state cemetery board and at the very least urge for a new SEPA review. Any management decision to allow an aberrant accessory use on this property was grossly made, and this project needs to be relocated.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
I have just one more sentence. Cell phone towers are important, and other than a single-family residence, almost any other land use would work in connection with a cell phone tower, just not this cemetery. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim, do we have any other speakers?
I do not.
All right. So I want to thank all of our speakers for coming tonight to speak about this cell phone tower. The unfortunate part of this property is in unincorporated King County, so the City of Kent does not have jurisdiction over it. We do not have the ability to issue or unissue permits, require that something that already exists, the cell tower that has been built, be torn down. It's very similar to if the City of Auburn or City of Tukwila decided to do something close to the border of the City of Kent. We don't have the ability to weigh in on those issues. It's outside of our jurisdiction. I do know that most of the speakers have reached out to King County. I would encourage you to continue to do that. Reach out to your King County council members and work through the King County code process. Like I said, the unfortunate part of this is an area that is not incorporated City of Kent. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you look at the map, but it is unincorporated King County. All right, with that, we are going
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you. And thank you for those words. You're right. And thank each of you for coming tonight and with your letters and your broadcasts there. I have learned so much this week, and the speakers are right in many ways. If it's a pet cemetery, it's treated completely different than, say, a human cemetery. There are very strict laws about human cemeteries, and you're right, a cell tower could not be built on a human cemetery. However, those rules don't apply to the pet cemetery. Now, if there were human remains there, it can be proved, you might have a case. But I want to tell you something that happened today, just today. It happened to be my father-in-law's 92nd birthday. I went over to his house, and I just kind of told him about what was going to happen tonight. And they said, that's interesting, because Mr. Dean Marlette and a guy named Bill Pugh, they used to come up and work, have my father-in-law work on their car, because my father-in-law was a tremendous mechanic, ran the bus garage for 42 years for the Kent School District. Now, why am I telling you all this? Well, Mr. Dean Marlette, who 1957 bought that corner lot there where the Marlette mortuary is, on the corner of Central and Smith. So James. And so he thought it'd be kind of interesting to buy a couple acres and put up a pet cemetery. Now, his friend Bill just laughed at him for that stupid idea. Well, he didn't think it was so stupid. And so Dean Marlette passed away, but his son Kim took over the business, and now Carl Marlette is still down there. Now, I just talked to the Marlettes. They have no evidence of ever having a human being put down in that cemetery. Now, listening to Julie's testimony, it sounds like the cemetery was there as early as 1948. Well, that might be to your advantage if there could be human remains prior to 1957 when Mr. Marlette bought the property. But that could be checked out, and I'd have to use one of those, I don't know, I call them the dinosaur screening things where you can see what's under the ground and prove that there's a human remains there as opposed to pet. So I don't know if I've helped or not. I appreciate what the mayor said, because she's exactly right. We just lack the jurisdiction to do anything, but we certainly have empathy for your cause, because I know how important pets are to me, and they are to all of you. So thank you for the time. I am done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas. I think empathy is a very good word. With that, we are going to move on.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Finch. I'm sorry, I did not see a hand. I apologize. I will scroll back up. There we go.
Thank you. And I just wanted I concur, the conversations I've had, it is completely on King County, but I would, just that they do further investigation into the people who may be buried there. As it's been a part of the Historical Kent tour, I've gone there on the tour, and I remember being told that there were 3 people there. One was off by herself, but 2, the couple who originally, gave that land or sold that land for the cemetery use. So that was an excellent suggestion from Councilmember Thomas. But because we were told that there actually are bodies there during the tour, I do think that it's worth your further time to take all of this to King County Council, or to King County, the department that you had, speak to your King County council member, but everything does end up there for any decisioning or changing.
Thank you, Councilmember Fincher. All right, moving on to item number 8, our consent calendar. This is a compilation of items that the council has studied, addressed, and moved forward without controversy from their committee of the whole meetings. Council President, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve consent calendar items A through Q.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries 6-0. Item number 9 is other business. We do not have any this evening, but item number 10 is bids. We've got the 2021 paint line striping and raised pavement marking replacement bid award. And Chad, are you going to be giving the presentation this evening?
I am. Good evening, Mayor.
All right, thank you.
And Council, thank you for having me. The 2021 paint line striping contract is up for bids. This is our annual program to come through and replace painted striping, as well as you'll notice on the slide, it says RPMs, or raised pavement markers. So, which folks may notice after the snowstorm, you may see more of those on the road. I know our crews did a very good job of avoiding them, but from time to time we will pop one during a snowstorm and pop them off the pavement. Next slide, Kim. So again, both striping, painted striping, and RPMs. Next slide. At locations throughout the city, there's our Veterans Drive, and then the last slide is our map of the locations. We recommend award to Specialized Pavement Markings. They've worked for us before and done a very good job. Bids came in about 20% under our engineer's estimate, so we're excited about the bid and look forward to award.
All right, thank you, Chad. Any questions for Chad? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised. So with that, a motion would be in order.
Mayor, I make the motion to award the 2021 paint line striping and raised pavement marking replacement project to Specialized Pavement Marking Inc. in the amount of $255,780 and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the city attorney and public works director.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right. Thank you, Chad, for that presentation. That brings us down to item number 11. We do have an executive session this evening. We are anticipating approximately 30 minutes, and there will be no action once the council reconvenes in open session. So with that, Kim, would you please help us move into executive session? And thank you for all of you that joined us this evening. right, good evening. Council has just come out of executive session. We do not have any other business for this meeting this evening. So want to encourage everyone to continue to keep themselves safe. We're seeing decrease in our COVID numbers. That does not mean we are out of the woods. So wear your masks, wash your hands, all of those kinds of things, socially distance, keep yourself safe. And this meeting is adjourned.
Good night, all.